mobile device format. But one of my favorite things is that I also have the ability to actually edit the code behind the scenes. And again, uh, hopefully this hopefully this is not an issue with the demo. We'll see. But when I click on the code view, come on. When I click on the code view here, did I mention this is in preview? Let's see if that works better. The code view allows me to view the HTML behind the scenes, but one of the things that it also allows me to do, and we'll talk about it a bit later, is that I can actually introduce some things like conditional logic or loops or server-side logic from my code view here. There you go. Works better like this. So if I wanted to I don't know, like say hello and put the name of the person here, I could actually go copy that code in there. In fact, why don't we go do that? So let me click on preview here. And when I click on preview, it gives me the ability to open the site on the desktop. Or if you're quick enough, you can actually copy this QR code here, and you can actually test the site because the site is actually live. As soon as I create it. But let me just go to the desktop view and let me preview the site. There you go. Now, I was testing this site before I got started. So normally what would happen is it would be like this. You're not signed in, and you would be able to register or sign in using the links here. Right? And I can actually have different things happen based on how I'm logged in. So let me show you an example of this. I'm going to go back to the page here. I'm going to go into the page, and instead of saying create an engaging headline here, I'm actually going to copy and paste some code. And here you go. Now this is something that I just stole directly from the Microsoft documentation, but I'll just say hello and then the person's full name, and I'll escape it in case the person's full name has some weird characters in it. If not, I'll just say hello anonymous user. And then, this is based on a big if statement that says if there is a user, then this user has a name. Otherwise, I'll just assume they're not authenticated. All right, so let's save this. And in preview, I'll say hello, John Doe, which makes sense because in preview, I'm not actually logged in as me quite yet. But if I go back to the preview page and I click on the desktop here, you'll see that it says hello, Hugo Bernier, which is me. But if I sign out, it should say hello, anonymous user. All right, so that was a super quick example here of how I can actually start creating some conditional logic for any sorts of things. And then there's all sorts of things behind the scenes that we can use, like does this person have permission to do certain things, or pretty much any kind of conditions that we want here. But let's go back and play around with the page a little bit. Okay, so one of the things that I can do as well is I can actually create new pages. And you'll see here there's this big giant button that allows me to create a page. So I can create a page at the root level of the site, or I can start creating a page structure. So for example, here I have subpage 1 and subpage 2, which has a list of services, for example. Let's create another page here. And let me just kind of add a new subpage. And because I'm not very creative, I'll call it subpage 3. And then you'll notice that first thing it asks me is, can I add this to the main navigation? Yeah, it'll show up under here. What kind of pages do I want to create? Do I want to have a landing page, a regular page, or a subpage? I'm going to call it a subpage. But one thing that you'll notice is I also have the ability to create custom layouts. Now, custom layouts are a little bit more complicated. And, if we have extra time, I'll show you how to do that. But for now, I'll just go click on subpage. And then right away, again, I get a new page here that's, that's going to be the navigation. And here, I'll just call this subpage 3. Oops. Subpage 3. And I'll just click on preview. One trick, by the way, if any of you have played with Power Pages before and kind of felt that you would make changes and those changes didn't reflect right away, one of the things that Power Pages and Powerapps portals behind the scenes will try to do, it'll always try to optimize kind of the rendering of the page, and it'll try to cache things as much as possible. So one little trick, people, will try to refresh the page, and when they refresh the page, they'll say the page is still not updated. Why is that? So the trick is actually, if you see that your page is cached, obviously the best thing to do is to just kind of go in to the page and just click on preview like this. But the other thing you can do is you can actually navigate through the page. And now I have this sharing toolbar that's right in front of my navigation. There you go. But so I can just navigate to a different page, and that will force it to refresh. So that's a little trick here. And the one thing I wanted to point out is that for most people, they'll have a tendency to just click on the sync button. Really, you don't really need to ever do that, because if you've got multiple people working on the same site together, all the configuration and across all the people who are working together, that's going to happen automatically anyways. So really, this is when Power Pages is kind of sleepy and it hasn't updated automatically, and you know for a fact that you should be seeing an update from someone else who's made a change. You can always click on sync. But if you're by yourself working on the site, you don't ever need to really worry about clicking on sync. You should just be able to click on preview. All right, so now I've created the page. I've changed the navigation a little bit where now I see subpage 1, 2, and 3, and I've showed you how we can move stuff around. I guess I haven't really showed you some cool stuff yet. So let me go back to the home page. And let's change this image here a little bit. Come on. Right here. And let me refresh here for a second. All right, so it doesn't want to collaborate with me right now. It always happens to me, by the way, when I'm trying to demo stuff that I'm clicking on the wrong mouse button or something, but it doesn't matter. I'll move on to the next thing. All right, so the next thing is the styling palette, which actually allows me to pick some color palettes that are predefined. Now, I gotta be honest, not crazy about the color palettes that are available out of the box. It's like I don't know. We picked like the worst color schemes that we could show, just to inspire people to maybe create their own color schemes. But if you don't like the color schemes that are here, and I personally, I don't particularly like any of the color schemes that are there. What you can do is you can actually go and create your own color scheme, right? So one of the things that you can do, you'll notice here that you can build a color palette. So for every color in the site, so for example here, I don't like these yellow buttons. Maybe I kind of want to change this color scheme here, and I'm gonna pick, let's say, a different color. So I could edit the color manually, but again, have I mentioned I'm the world's laziest developer? I'll just do this here. I'll also add another color that I want to use because maybe I want to use a slightly lighter blue color. So what I'll do here is I'll go add my color to my palette, and I can actually build kind of a palette like this of all the colors that I need. And then you'll notice that here in my color palette, I'm able to actually go and say, like, these are the colors I want to use for the background of the page, like this. Ugh. For the headings, like the title, the heading 1, heading 2, and so on and so forth. And then the buttons, right? So, for example, here, the button, I want to change that to my blue. Probably should make the text white. And the hover style, I want to use that other blue that I picked, right? And I could do this for all the button styles and everything, but let's just save that, right? And if the demo gods are with me, I should be able to go back to my pages and preview. And if everything goes well, there you go. And refresh the page. And then I have a different hover. I forgot to set up the hover color for the text, but you get what I mean here. I'm able to actually kind of customize the look and feel of the site. And again, all this stuff is actually using, well, it's using regular HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. It's just that you don't have to, if you're a maker and you're just trying to build the site quickly, you don't actually need to learn how to use CSS, JavaScript, and HTML. However, if you have, let's say, a color scheme that's already used by your corporate site that you wanted to reuse, you have the ability to go in behind the scenes and edit the CSS if that's what you wanted to do. It also uses Bootstrap behind the scenes. So this is again, Bootstrap is a standard. It's a pretty old standard actually that allows you to build, responsive websites and things like that. And it's a proven framework to be able to create websites. Now the cool thing about that is there's lots and lots of websites that use Bootstrap and Bootstrap. Lots and lots and lots of Bootstrap templates that are available. But if you had a Bootstrap uh, style sheet for your corporate website, chances are you'll be able to actually just apply a lot of the same colors into your site here to make it look and feel like your corporate website. All right, so we've played with the styling sheet. Let's go play with the data sheet or the data workspace. So the data workspace, remember one of the things that I talked about is that, oh, actually, I just noticed there's questions. Hold on. Yeah, actually, so the question is, any idea when it's going to be released? I think the official word is October. Again, it's go in sync with the next release wave, but I'll send you a link later that allows you to actually monitor the release waves that you can use to actually keep track of things going on. So hopefully that answers the question. All right, so in the data space, one of the things that we can do here is we can actually start connecting with the data in your Dataverse environment in a secure way. So if you're already familiar with Dataverse, or if you've been, if you're a Dynamics person, you're familiar with how you can create custom tables or custom entities, depending on how long you've been working with Dynamics, and you can add, different columns and things like that. Well, you can actually do that same thing directly from here as well. So in fact, you'll see that all the tables that are in my Dataverse environment are available here. Now, that doesn't mean that the data is actually available for people to see, quite yet. And I'll explain that in a minute. But let's say we wanted to create a custom table here. Let's just say, I don't know, anybody have any suggestions? What kind of data we should be capturing? So let's just say we'll do a request for estimate. Right, and then that's going to be request for estimate, I guess, the plural for this. We'll create a new table here. We'll see how long it takes to create this. So what I'm doing behind the scenes, I'm actually, even though I'm in Power Pages, I'm actually going in and creating new tables in Dataverse. And hopefully it's not going to take too long here. If it takes too long, I'll just refresh the page and I'll just use one of the tables that's already there. But it usually doesn't take too long to do this. There you go. All right, so I have my new request for estimate, And then I'll add some columns here. And so some of the columns that we want to do is, okay, so what we would want to ask, right? We'd want to ask, what's your name? So let's say full name. And that's going to be text, and it's going to be simple text, and let's just make it mandatory. And depending on how quickly it adds the column here, we'll see how many columns I'll add. Normally we'd add columns like, phone number and things like that, but we'll see. If it's really slow here, I'll just skip to some of the more fun columns, like let's just do, so let's say this is a request for an estimate, and we want to say type of, or let's say service type. And then one of the things that I can do here is I can just use a choice, and I can use a drop-down choice. And here I could actually create kind of a global choice, or I could create just a local choice, right? And so those of you who are familiar with Dataverse, you know that you can create choices like, shape, right? So shape would be rectangle, circle, square, triangle. And if you plan to use that choice in multiple places in your system, you might make this a global choice that you'll reuse across the board. But in this case, I'm just going to say this is just a choice that's only for this. So I'm going to say, this is going to be service 1. And I'll just add like maybe a couple more just to show. Service 2. And turns out I'm not very good at typing when people are watching me type. Service 3. All right. And that should be it. I could say multiple choices, but for in this particular case, I'll just say this is a required field. I want it to be showing up as a choice, and that's it. Okay, so maybe we'll stop adding columns here, but you can imagine if I were building a request for estimate, I would actually add a lot more things like phone number, dimensions, whatever other things I need to do. And then right away, what this is doing is it actually allows me to enter some data in my system, but it also allows me to build some views, right? So for example, I might want to say, I'm just going to build a quick view here, which would be my requests. And then I'll just have the name, and then we'll add the service type. And what else did I say? Full name, right? Full name. And then I'll save that. Because I'm a nice person, I will also publish to make sure that this is populated through my environment. And then once this is done, I'll go back here. So I should have, come on. Let's see if I actually click too quickly. We'll find out soon enough. How much time do I have left, by the way?
We got 10 more minutes, I think. Maybe
Perfect.
Another 5 minutes.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So we'll see if I'm able to get my data coming through here, and then I've got some forms that I can build. So let me just submit. Request would be a form that I want to build, and I can actually create a form here. And this, again, if you've been using Dataverse or Dynamics or model-driven apps or any of the above, this should look really familiar. And that's because it is based on the same kind of engine, right? So I will go here, add some fields, and I'll just say, what's your name? What service type? And let's just say that's it, right? So save that. So you might be asking, well, why would you do that here? Why would you not go do that in Dataverse itself? Guess what? You can actually go in Dataverse if you want to. You can actually be using solutions behind the scene as well if you wanted to kind of bring that data or those designs as a configurable package that you would deploy between your environments. But think of the scenario of a maker who's just trying to kind of capture the basic information that they need, and they are not Dataverse experts. They're not Dynamics experts. They don't know how to create model-driven apps, but they want to capture data. And this is kind of really what we're trying to do here, is to make it possible for you to do this without having to jump out of this environment. Okay, so once I've done that, let's just go here. So my form should be published now. It's like it knows I'm trying to demo something. It's acting very sluggish today. All right, so I have my new submit request form that is showing up here, and it sees that it's not using any pages right now. So let's go to a page, and let's just go, and I'll just pick my new page here, and I'll just say request an estimate. Oops, that's correct. And here I'll just kind of add a new one column section here. And then what I can do here is I can actually populate a list of all the data that I've created. But in this case, I actually want to start by creating some data. So I'll actually pick the list here. And then you'll see that the first thing that it'll do is it'll show me kind of the forms that I have available. So let's see if it's going to request for estimate. And let's see if we have a form here. Oh, yeah, there you go. Submit a request. We're going to call this submit request. And then before I save here, let's go take a look at some of the options. So the data from this form is actually going to create a new record. And when I submit, what do I want to do? I want to display a message. I want to redirect to a page to say, hey, congratulations, or I want to go to a different URL. And then optionally, if you want to do anonymous forms, you can actually say, well, I want to request anonymous users to have CAPTCHAs, right? I'm not going to do that. Let's save that. Okay, so now this is my very rudimentary form here, but there's actually one thing that's missing. When if you remember, I said I can actually take any data that's in Dataverse and I can make it available for users. But the one thing that I probably don't want to do is I probably don't want every single person to see the list of every contact or every single person that's submitted a request for an estimate. So one of the things that you can do with Power Pages is to use permissions. So you'll see here I don't have permissions. So let's create a new permission, and let's just call the permission create new requests. I like to call my permissions, what the action is going to be. And then you'll notice here, the type of access is I have the ability to view everything in the database. I can view things that are related to me as a contact. If I am a contact who works for an organization, I can also view all the things related to that organization if I wanted to. Or in the case of me as a contact, I could have permissions to my own record. So if I wanted to update my information, update my profile picture, things like that, I could do that. So for now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, let's just do this for now, global access, and you'll see why in a second. But what I'll do is I'll do permission to create. So that means that anybody can go create a request for an estimate. And then the roles that I'll select here, I could actually choose who I want to be able to do these things. So I'll say anybody that's logged in is able to do this. I'll click save. and see if I'm able to demo this quickly. So let's go preview. And if the demo gods are with me, I should be able to go to the new page that I've created. I could say Hugo Bernier and service one. I guess this should have been something like estimate for new driveway. And hit submit. Let's see if this works. Woohoo! My submission was completed successfully. So I've just created a new record in the database. And let me show you behind the scenes. If we go back to the data workspace and I go to my request for estimates, we should see that I have a new entry that was created here. Now, one thing that we didn't do here is we didn't actually specify who created it, but take a look at this here. We have, we don't have a created by person. So one of the things that we'd want to do, and we're going to run out of time here, but one of the things that I would want to do is I would want to say, well, if I want to allow people to see their own records, I could actually add a, here, let's just do this. I'm going to cheat here. I'm going to say created by contact. I'm going to say this is a lookup. Come on. And it's going to be contacts. And I'm cheating here, by the way. Normally I would do this in the form itself where I would set up the name of the column or the column value of the person who just created the form. But here I'll actually go change this to be Hugo. Okay, and just to show you that I'm not lying, I'm gonna hard code another value here. This will not show, and hidden service 2, and I'm gonna pick someone else, Andy. Okay, and there you go. So now I've got 2 records in this database, one that is created by Hugo, one that's created by Andy. And so if I go back now to my my data, my pages, and I go to, let's say, subpage 2, and I add a list. I can actually pick a list to my requests. Oops. Come on. Oh, I apologize. I didn't actually save my list earlier, right? When we were creating these views. So let's just pick this one. Let's publish the view. Now let's see if that works. If not, I'll have to come back later. But okay, so I've actually shown you how to set up permissions here. One of the things that I would want to do when I was creating permissions, I could say, well, view my own request, right? So what I could do here is I could say view my own request. I'll pick the same table that I did before. So request for estimate. And now I'm going to change this to be contact access. So that means that as a contact, I can only see things when they are related. And remember that table that I created, or that column I created called created by contact? Now it shows up as a relationship. And now I can say, well, this person, can only see, or maybe they can update or delete or append by this thing. And then I can actually say only authenticated users can actually view their own estimates. And we can go on like this. We can create all sorts of custom permissions based on custom behaviors and things like that. But for the sake of time, I'm going to skip the rest here. And I just wanted to show you a couple more things. The one thing here is that I can actually control how my site is going to be authenticated. And so by default, it allows me to create just usernames and passwords in the system by allowing me to register. It has the built-in ability to integrate with my Azure Active Directory if I wanted to. And I have the ability to do things like integrate with Azure Active Directory B2C, right? So I can have a separate repository of authentication. But you'll notice that I also have open auth things like Facebook, LinkedIn, Google, Twitter, and Microsoft authentication. And I can just configure them to enable them. And then in my authentication settings, I can allow whether I want people to use an external login, whether I want them to be able to register, or whether I will enforce a unique email. And whatever these settings are, when I go to the site to log in, it will enforce these settings. So for example, if I didn't want to allow registration, I turn that off. I go to the site and I'll sign out. Come on. It knows that I'm trying to hurry. That's why. All right, so now let me go back to signing out on this page. Sign out. And when I sign out, you'll see that the ability to register will be begun, which should be right around here somewhere. And so by combining the ability to authenticate with the ability to register and even to do things like send invitations, here, I'll go sign in. See, now I don't have the ability to register. So that means that only people that have been invited or that already have an account created would be able to log into this website. And my integration with Azure AD is right here, so I could log in with Azure AD if I wanted to. Redeem invitation is something very cool. If you ever have to activate a whole bunch of people, you can, like, for example, an entire government worth of contractors, you can actually just pre-create all the contacts in the database and then send them a unique invitation code. When they get the invitation code, they can just click on the email, they can go activate their account and then pre-populate their information. All right, so that's pretty much all the time I have for demos, but let me look at some questions and if there's anything else you need,
Yeah, we got a question from Arjun. So how to bring the custom CSS file in Power Pages to reference the class and the HTML tags?
Yeah, so remember one of the things I talked about is that we can, behind the scenes, this is all based on Powerapps portal, right? So if I go to my Hugo environment, you'll notice that under apps, I actually have an application, a model-driven application called Portal Management. This is the same application that if you've ever used Powerapps portals, this is the same application, the same engine that's available to you behind the scenes. So in here, you can do things like upload web files. So if you wanted to upload a custom CSS, which I have here kind of two different CSS, you can actually go and do that directly from here, upload a custom CSS. You could also, because this is actually designed to integrate with application lifecycle management tools, you could use Visual Studio Code if you wanted to and connect to this website. There's something called the Powerapps CLI command line interface that allows you to download the portal to your desktop. It gives you access to all the code, including the CSS, so you can customize the CSS, and then you can use the CLI to upload. You can also do that through GitHub or Azure DevOps as well. So there's kind of a whole bunch of different ways to do this. A little bird told me that in the future it might be easier for makers to be able to edit the CSS other than just creating themes. But again, I think the primary focus right now is to allow makers to be able to build a site based on a predefined theme. Because if you think about it, right, if you're creating a corporate identity for a website, you don't want your users to just go and create random look and feel because it's supposed to be your corporate identity. And that's why I think there's that kind of divide right now between a person who can pick a theme that's predefined versus a pro dev or an IT pro that would go in and create a CSS. So hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah, yeah, great.
So as I'm sure you've gathered, I could probably talk about this for hours and hours.
Yeah,
Have
we have a hand
one
raised
more
from
question?
Jiva. Yeah,
Yeah.
Jiva, go ahead.
Hi, how you go? Firstly, thanks for the
That's CRM Indian?
Sachin. Yeah. Is it showing like that?
No. He's just famous.
Right. Thank you so much. Okay. First of all, thank you so much for giving us the overview of the Power Pages and then how we can spin up an working application in the quick span of time. I have a very maybe a dumb question, but I'm sure some of us will have the same question in their mind. So, how this is being placed in the overall product when it compares to the Power Apps portals? Because so far, we have used to the ADX portal and then Dynamics portals and then Power Apps portals,
Yeah.
and now we have announced as a Power Pages, and we have taken it out of the as a separate product, which is cool. And then now you have a couple of times you have mentioned that Power Pages is something built on top of Power Apps portals. So it's kind of a bit confusing, right? So I thought Power Apps portals is being replaced by Power Pages in terms of terminology and in terms of product structure. But the way I see it, when you just presented it, it seems like Power Apps portals is going to lay as a platform, and then Power Pages is built on top of that, similar to how Dataverse is staying as a platform where we have Power Apps on top of it.
Yeah. So the engine behind the scenes is still going to be Powerapps portals. It's just that I think in the future Powerapps portals would be a lot less visible. But the power of the Powerapps portal, and Powerapps portal is a pretty mature product. That strength is going to stay there. But what Power Pages is trying to do is it's trying to make it a lot easier for just makers to be able to build something. Because if you've used Powerapps portals or Dynamics portals, right, you'll remember that it was not that easy for people to kind of drop in, forms and lists and things like that, and to go manage permissions. You had to kind of know the secret decoder ring to do that. And they're bringing a lot of that stuff to kind of level that makes it easy for anybody to build that. But again, it's not, at least for the next foreseeable future, it's not like you're going to have to make a either or decision, right? If you're a maker and you're just kind of focusing on the look and feel and the page content and stuff like that, you can use Power Pages. If you're a pro dev and you want to create like all sorts of crazy logic and embed all sorts of fancy JavaScript and CSS and things like that, you can use Power Pages, but you can also go behind the scenes and use Power Apps Portal and the portal management tool to do that. Hopefully that answers your question. Yeah.
Got it. Thank you so much. And that raises me one more question there from the licensing standpoint, because we already have licenses for Power Apps portals, and we are saying that will be written as a platform, and then we're giving more flexibility for makers to create Power Apps pages. Will that, I know it's too early regarding licensing, but will that be a separate licenses for Power Apps pages on top of Power Apps portals? Please say no.
I hope that that's not going to be the case. However, they haven't shared yet their their plans. I have been told that the licensing model is going to be a lot more straightforward for Power Pages, but that's to be announced when they go GA.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
I know. I wish I could answer more clearly. But yeah, I think you'll be happy is what I can say. And then there was one question about, can we use Power Virtual Agent? Yes, absolutely. Power Virtual Agent, as well as things like SharePoint integration, Power BI, are actually built into the product. Now, there's no widget for Power Virtual Agent in here yet, but it is actually really easy to add Power Virtual Agent integration into this.
Cool.
I'm sure that the widget for Power Virtual Agent will be added before, well, I hope it'll be added before GA. If not, it's, again, because it's built into Powerapps Portal, it's actually, that feature is built in. It's just a little code snippet that you can embed in the page. Very, very easy. Hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Hugo. I think a little bit over time, but still, it's a really valuable session, and especially
story of my life.
Yeah, especially thanks to you, because I know it's midnight for you, and thank you for making this in the New Zealand time. And yeah, thank you everyone. Really appreciate your time to making this event, and I dropped in forms link to leave your feedback. So it would be really great, like if you can actually share your feedback, so we can organize more and more sessions from Microsoft as well as from Microsoft MVP. Yeah, thank you everyone again. Thank you, Hugo.
My pleasure. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. I'll post a quick URL here in the chat. If anybody has any questions, you can just book some time with me. And if I can type again, I'm having a hard time typing today. Chat with Hugo. There you go. So you can just book some time with me if you have any questions. Happy to help.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
Have a great day.
You too.